Oliver Hunter, welcome back to the Half Palmy, mate.
Oh, it's good to be back, Josh. We're still doing it.
We're still doing it. This time we're inside of my Toyota Corolla.
Oh, we're in person for the first time, everybody, and we are in a Toyota Corolla parked here at the front of my parents' house. Yeah, in the middle
Post-Palmy.
in the middle of the day, post-Palmy. We did have a Palmy yesterday as we record this. And I'm going to say the best Palmy I've had for a very long time, probably since we first came up with this podcast when we had a half Palmy in Melbourne.
Yes. Yeah.
The Star Hotel in Albury. We did flag this pub as a top Palmy in the first episode, but they even exceeded that expectation.
I think from memory we might have labelled another venue the Djokovic, Federer and Nadal Palmy, and I think we might have slid the Star Palmy in as the Andy Murray.
Yeah, like
he got a couple of gold medals, but what else?
Yeah. And he had his moment, and he could hold his own with the big three, but in the end, his knees just broke, and he had to retire. That was sort of what the Star Palmy, the energy he was bringing. There was a bit of anger and a bit of just sort of bitterness, and they knew they could bring the heat, but they were sort of. They were 30% heat compared to...
the body of the Palmy was letting itself down over time.
Yeah. Had the talent, had the pretend, and the just skill and will, but just didn't have the physical attributes sometimes.
Well, that all changed yesterday because when we had the Palmy for lunch, enjoyable lunch, great service, everything went beautifully. Yeah. It was such a good Palmy, guys, and particularly if you're local to Albury-Wodonga and you're listening to this. The 2024 early Gen Star Palmy didn't get commented on during the Palmy. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was almost like the 2019 Wimbledon final that we all talk about. Just to use another tennis analogy, people talk about it more now than they did at the time. As, we were watching, and in this case, eating one of the great Palmies.
Yeah, it was. And I think it didn't. I remember I messaged you 2 hours later, went, just check it in. But that Palmy, that was right up there. And you were like, yeah. What got me, because I had back-to-back Palmies. So my dinner the night before on yesterday was also a Palmy at the other establishment we've mentioned. And then I had lunch Palmy, and I purposely went for a swim in the morning. And then I only had no breakfast, went for a swim, then had a banana at about 10:30, then we had lunch at about 12:30. So I'd opened up my guts, and it was ready for Palmy consumption, and I felt good. And I don't know what it was, whether it was my dietary preparation or it was just the quality of the produce. But I didn't have the post-Palmy, coma, rock in your guts kind of vibe, and I was shocked by it, and I'm still shocked by it. I feel well, which over Christmas, New Year, January in general, I've never felt well. So I'm excited for it, and it was. I think the shredded ham. I think we mentioned it in the first step. The Star have it. Their ham is shredded ham, like pizza ham, and it had something to it that, yeah.
There's no, what I called yesterday in a message, there's no slide out.
No.
When you're eating a certain chunk of the Palmy, you're getting an even amount of all the ingredients in the block.
Yes.
You're not half pulling a massive sheet of ham straight out and you're eating that all in one go.
Yeah. I think if for the people that love a sandwich in the sandwich community that I see a bit now, there's a lot of good sandwich shops in Melbourne. Great cross section of palm. If we're talking sandwiches, I think a sandwich indicator is how good is the cross section. So when you cut it, and it's all the same stuff. That was when you had the Palmy yesterday. You got a bit of everything, and there was no unevenness. There was no slide out. There was no, it all held together. And I think it did help as well that we got there at about 12. So I reckon we were about the 14th and 15th meals. Yeah.
The chefs had warmed up.
Yeah, they were on. They were feeling good. And I reckon if we had got there at 1:30, the back end of lunch, they might have been a bit like, I'm about to finish.
Powering down.
So I'll just throw this in and see what happens. But they were on. I
will say one more thing. I think the idea of the cross-sectional Palmy is very progressive of us.
Yeah.
So once again, as we always say, if you guys have had to rip a palmy this week, reach out to myself or to Oliver on the social medias. All the links will be wherever you're listening to this. So we did have a couple of things we wanted to talk about today. You've got a Taking the Piss, and I've got a top 5. But you did have a story about a road trip that you wanted to share with me.
So we obviously drove up to Albury from Melbourne for New Year's. So we and our baby, or my baby, Ziggy, he's 7 weeks old, and he's been a great sleeper. Loves car trips. So put him in the car, get him out, but here's the thing we figured out since we've done this traveling for hours at a time. Loves a car trip, but also pretty much only loves when you're over 110. So as soon as you drop below 100 and you stop, like red lights, and you're in towns or suburbs, don't want a bar of it. He wakes up and he's cracking, he's crying, he's screaming. But as soon as you're on the freeway, 110, 120, he's asleep. So he slept for most of the trip and then woke up and he had to feed. It was all good. And then we had to get him back to sleep. And then at one point we had to put a white noise playlist on Spotify. I don't know if you're across this, Josh, but there are these white baby sleeping white noise playlists. For anyone's got kids out there, you'll know, well, especially if you've got kids in the last few years, you'll know that these playlists exist. And I think that was a real moment for me of like, this is what my life is now. Playing white noise playlists on Spotify, really throwing out my algorithm. And, you know, there was a time in my life, and when he went to sleep, Kira and I are in the front seat. We're like fist pumping in silence because he's finally gone to sleep. And I just sort of sat back and had a moment to myself going, this is where my life is now. There was a time in my life where I was fist pumping to white noise, but that was in a dark room of a nightclub. And the white noise in the nightclub wasn't the only white thing, but we won't...
Yeah, right.
We won't get in that too much. But, you know, that's just where we're at now. I am playing white noise playlist to my 7-week-old baby to try and get him to sleep. Yeah. And,
of course, Ollie was talking about remixes of the Beastie Boys. He wasn't talking about anything else.
Yeah.
We will clarify too, at no point was the vehicle ever going faster than 110 kilometres on the freeway.
Yeah.
Did say that's clear.
Speed limits. But I did say to Kira, I was like, well, you might have, when we're back in the suburbs of home, she may have to just rip down the highway locally at 120 if he needs to get to sleep and just cop the speeding ticket. Like, I think that is people talk about budgeting for children. I think that's a budget item we're gonna have to throw in.
Yeah, there's very little chat about the sleep budget and what a parent. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I've seen obviously everyone in my family has numerous children.
Yeah.
And I'm getting more and more friends that also have kids. It doesn't seem like, even regardless of your financial situation, that money's not available if it's needed. Like, you'll pull that from the top end of a GE finance credit card. You'll pull that from selling something to your neighbour.
Yeah. Just organ trafficking. Like, it's there's nothing off the table.
Some of that white noise in the nightclub.
Yeah. Like, I just, you know, we live next, like, we live up the road from a primary school, so the primary school kids, when they're back at school, they might really have to get their skates on, getting across the road. So, we'll see how we go. But yeah, it was just a moment and I'm going to maybe build a top 5 later down the track about what else has changed in my life, since having little Ziggy. But that was a moment we were both laughing to ourselves, going, what are we, like, we're fist pumping when we get him to sleep, and it's just not a couple of years ago, not a direction my life I thought was going to take, but we're here now, we're loving it, and and I can't wait for old Ziggs to have a pump. So
I like how he's got a catchphrase already. Ziggs, I'm not an idle baby. Do not be idle at any point.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And obviously, Ollie did mention he's going to have a top 5 on what's changed. If you are a parent and you are listening and have a top 5, like things that changed massively in your life, if you could just condense those stories down and send them through.
Yeah, send them through.
We'll love to read it out.
We'd love to hear them.
So you had a Taking the Piss also.
Taking the Piss, and I only sort of, this rekindled this Taking the Piss when I came into my parents' house. And this isn't all them. This is one of my brothers, because one of my brothers, Spencer, shout out to Spencer, he just moved to Cairns with his wife. Good on them. And they love a house plant, and they couldn't take all their house plants to Cairns with them. And now my parents' house are full of house plants. And that is by taking the piss, Josh. Houseplants, people that like houseplants, people that use houseplants as an identity. I don't get them. We've got 1 or 2 at home in Melbourne, Kira and I. I guess I can get around. I can be okay with that. But I don't understand why people have to have greenhouses just because. Like, unless you're manufacturing something and you're a primary producer, get the greenery outside.
Well, somehow Ollie just did quotation marks primary producer with his eyelids. I'm not sure how that worked.
I don't know how.
There's lots of growers out there of different kinds.
Yeah, I'm a shower. I'm not a grower. So I don't get it. Yeah, and you're in there, and it's like, yeah, there's things growing out of weird places, and like I'm bumping into plants. Like I don't understand. We're not in the Amazon. We're in.
Could I clarify? Are these fake plants or like live?
No, they're real plants.
Have you noticed just a general level of insect activity in the house?
No. It's I think because they're all designed. They're all indoor plants.
Yeah, so they're not attracting that kind of stuff.
No, they're not. They're built to be in the house, but that doesn't make it okay. So my mum is at the point
it's just like someone is breaking and entering. He's physically built to be in here, but maybe he shouldn't be.
Yeah. So my mum even said the other day that there's not enough room for all the indoor plants. So some of the indoor plants have had to be relocated to the outdoor area outside. So with any luck, that means some of them may not survive the summer.
A little survival of the fittest situation.
Yeah. So that's my taking the piss. People that have too many house plants, get a grip on your lives and just reevaluate. That's my point.
And the other thing is too, if you're in a household where you have a substantially sized dog, that dog's used to just laying down wherever it wants, and you're taking up a lot of dog space.
Yep.
Where that dog now, you're relaxing yourself, but adding anxiety to your dog's life.
Yep. No, not about it.
At no point should your dog be on more Prozac than you.
Yeah. That's another thing. I've heard a lot of people recently in the last few years. I used to work with some people that dogs are on medication, like anti-anxiety medication. Yeah. That shouldn't be a thing.
I think it's because we have too much pressure on dogs now. Like, dogs don't just get to be dogs. They've got to support you.
Yeah.
How I would frame it is that essentially they used to just cruise around and have fun and we clean up their shit.
Yeah.
Now we're relying on them to get us through our shit.
Yeah. To be our support and to be our, real barometer on how our day's going to go. You're like, nah, it's just a dog. Let it be a dog.
It's like when you've started an entry-level job and the first thing is, you got to be here 15 minutes early. That dog, in this instance, is like, no.
No, I'm a dog. I'll do what I want because, newsflash, I'm a dog.
Yeah.
So
I didn't evolve to solve your problems.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't go to uni. I don't have a tape course. Like, I'm just a dog.
So if you're out there and you feel like your dog's stressed, put it in a kennel because it needs a break.
Yeah, it needs a break from you.
So you're talking about things that everyone loves that you don't love, being houseplants. That actually, somehow, I didn't know this was going to happen. That is the topic of my top 5 today.
Yeah.
So what I did was, a lot of people have things that they don't like that generally a lot of people don't like. So what I chose, Ollie, was 5 things that when I've mentioned this to people have got a very aggressive reaction. Like, I'm wrong, my life is worthless because I feel this way. So number 5 on my top 5 things that people love that I don't is any television program that features Hamish and or Andy.
Right, yeah.
The 2, and I love audio and I love the radio, 2 of the top 5 best radio people ever.
Yep.
Not even just in Australia, in my opinion.
Yep.
It might be the best radio show of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys on TV, I'd rather you poured salt in my eyeballs.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to hear their voices on there. I don't want to see the way that they touch themselves because they're not used to wearing lapel mics. Yeah. Like, particularly Hamish when he's doing his thing because he's so great at improving. Just whacking it.
Yeah.
This sound, guys.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that at all. It's not Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
So any program that they're on, I'm not watching it regardless of how good a premise it is. because it's like you guys were the best at a different thing, and now I've got to watch you do this other thing.
And also, they've also taken their radio prowess into podcasts and are nailing the podcast.
They're one of, if not the best shows in Australia, like over the long term.
Yeah.
And I guess what really irritates me, and people know that I'm a tennis head, obviously, is that somehow Andy, who I actually really like, a lot of people are like, oh, Hamish is the genius, Andy's the straight guy that sets him up.
Yeah.
He's incredibly funny in his own right. He does and has produced some of the least funny elements of anything to do with the Australian Open.
Oh, not a fan of Guess Who?
I'm not a fan of it. No.
Yeah.
Just go back to the radio, Andy, please.
Yeah.
And whenever I've mentioned that, they're like, oh, no, but you're an idiot because that's the next step from the radio. I'm like, no. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Hamish, take your Lego and ship off.
It might be the next step if you're falling down the fucking staircase.
Yeah.
So...
one that's made out of Lego.
Correct. Yeah, go see your mate for some Lego.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 4, and this is, we have had some criticism that all we talk about is food, which I thought was obvious given the name of the show. But,
Shout out to you, Justin.
Justin. Well, actually, there's a few people that have listened to every episode. Thanks, guys. We actually really appreciate that.
Yeah. But we'll do what we want.
Yeah.
As well.
Correct. This is a pretty contentious one. Onions in food. And the reason why this upsets people is that I've had people around me, whether they're people in the family, extended family, previous girlfriends, whoever, that see me making stuff, and I can't help but say, "Are you going to put onions in that?"
Can you give me some examples?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Okay, yep.
I don't onion. I don't have fried onion on any form of barbecue.
Yeah, yep.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I've never had an instance where any food that I've made has come back to me, other than putting French onion soup mix in something, that I get. But I've never had anyone come back to me and say, great bolognese, could have used onion.
Yeah, good point. It's a good point.
Like, I don't think it's one of the enhancing features of a food. And if anything else, it's not what people miss.
Yeah.
But people can't help but say, oh, you don't have onion.
Yeah.
No, because you're not going to miss it.
Yeah. It's not the of the spag bowl world. It's not the tomato sauce or like the pasta sauce. Yeah. Or the garlic. I feel like if you made a bolognese, using the bolognese example, if you didn't throw the garlic in, you might be able to know there's missing some garlic. Why did you put garlic in it, you weirdo?
Oh,
but onion, I think I'm with you.
I think it's just because I chose to leave it out because I don't like it, doesn't equal this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
But that's the inference. It's not so much that I'll eat food with onion in it. I quite like it if it's in there. Just I would prefer that it's not. And if I'm making the thing, it's not going in by default.
Yeah.
That's all it is. But just keep your comments to yourself.
Yeah. Where's your head at on French onion? Is it French onion dip?
I'm a fan.
You a fan? What about onion rings?
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that is the fast food deep fried equivalent of something I think sucks.
Yeah.
It's everything I don't like about food in one thing.
And the thing with the onion ring is I've had a full spectrum of the onion ring. I do love an onion ring.
The variance, the standard deviation of an onion ring. Oh.
I think, it's quite large. The spectrum. They talk about other spectrums in the world, but I feel like no one's talking about the onion ring.
The most important one.
The OR spectrum.
Yeah, that's it.
So I think because I've always liked Hungry Jack's because they have onion rings. And their standard onion ring, like they don't deviate too far because they're obviously, just a deep fried anyway. And but you go to some of these, like I was grilled the other night, and they've got onion rings now, and they've sucked.
Oh gosh, that's not good.
But then I also have been to the New Market, where I had the other palmy. We've talked about the New Market before. They have onion rings as a entree or side. And they do good onion rings. So I do love an onion ring, but they're the worst onion ring. It's just like, it's like a bit of old rubber.
One thing I don't like about the onion ring as a product is I feel like because it must be either cheaper or whatever it is, it's replaced the spots that sometimes a potato cake would turn up or a hash brown. Like all these burgers that I'd like to try all have an onion ring sitting in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want the oniony taste on all the other shit.
Yeah.
Just either get rid of it or put some kind of potato back in there.
Speaking of hash browns, I know we keep tangenting from your top 5, but if I go to a breakfast cafe and a hash brown is not there, I really have some serious questions about what this operation is delivering.
You mean as part of the big breakfast, or as a standalone item?
Just as an item. If you don't have an item, because our local cafe in Melbourne, we do love them and go there all the time, and I've had to accept the fact that they don't have hash brown on the menu. But I don't understand it. It's not. I mean, I'm not a chef, but it can't be that hard to whip up.
Breakfast foods?
Yeah.
Number 1, obviously water. Number 2 is offering coffee. 3, eggs and or bacon or both. And then number 4, hash brown.
Yeah.
Like, it's top 5 in anyone's list.
Yes. So anyway, that's the end of my.
Yeah, I don't need deep broiled kale for breakfast. So number 3, and this is one that annoyed a lot of people in the mid-2000s, Ollie, when you were a youngster.
Yeah.
Is that I always detested all Jackass-related product.
Yep.
The movies, the TV shows, but they were as big as anything at the time, and a lot of people from a lot of different, you had music heads, you had footy people, you had, men, women, everyone was watching Jackass.
Yep.
And I was seen as being such a square, boring idiot.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't laughing at that shit.
Mm-hmm. So
I can't even put it down to why I don't like it.
Yeah, okay. So
because I'm sure if some guy just jumped off the truck that just pulled up over the road into that bin that's right next to the truck, I'd probably go, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. So it wasn't the slapstick or the like violent bodily harm that turned you off.
I think it was the idolatry people had for just being a dickhead.
Yeah.
Like it's reasonably funny, but this is not something I'm going to spend a lot of my time watching. Like I think if Jackass existed for the first time in like Reels format, where it's 10 seconds and I see one every day.
Yeah.
But watching it for hours and hours and then people just putting it on like it's a Krusty Demons thing where they're actually doing something sophisticated.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was. It was like the people that were into Krusty Demons and motorbikes morphed into Jackass people.
Yes.
Because you might not remember this, but people used to put on Krusty Demons and Jackass and BAM at parties.
Yeah, and it was like we'll watch some of it
as background TV, like instead of music, which, that was probably my biggest issue.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine how, they were massive at their time, as you said, because I remember I was old enough at sort of the tail end of their peak fame, I guess.
Yeah, which was a good 10 years ago.
Yeah. Can you imagine how big they would have been if they started in the real Instagram? Because if they could have had, like, the content they would have put up on Reels and on Instagram, they were massive before social media. And then they're still relevant now to a point. But if they had started 10 years ago when social media started, and even 5 years ago when Reels become a thing, I'd like, what do you think? Do you reckon they would have been even bigger? They were massive, but
I think you'd have to look at it the other way around. What if we pushed the technology back? Because a lot of what got people big on like Vine, and Vine was a precursor to all of these short form video apps, they were ripping off Jackass.
Yeah.
Like all of the dumb human tricks stuff that's so huge on social media now, a lot of that is just a micro version of something that Jackass
did. Yeah, even the basketball trick shots.
Yeah. So I guess they were influential. Just don't invade my drinking time. Like, we had the option to listen to some of the greatest music of all time.
Yeah.
Or put on Steve-O for the 15th time.
Yeah, it's like, don't invade that with blokes getting their testicles stapled to their whatevers. And you're like, what's happening here?
That's funny 5 to 7 times, not 50 to 70 times.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So that I got a lot of pushback about, basically that I thought I was like sophisticated and I was too cool.
Yeah.
So number 2, and this is the thing that's upset the most people in my whole life, I don't like Radiohead.
Oh, the band?
I've spent time with them. It's not that I don't get them. That's people's first reaction when they hear you don't like it, and they're like, oh, you have no sophistication. You just don't get Radiohead.
Yeah, you're a music snob, and yeah.
I get Radiohead. You've moved into a phase of your life where you're looking for white noise with haircuts.
Yeah, we might need some of that.
That's just pretty much what it sounds like to me when I hear it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy is very, very successful, very wealthy, puts zero effort into their shows as far as energy to reproduce the original emotion that he created when he had the song. And I would rather just go listen to whatever cover band is on at lunchtime today at a local pub than ever watch Tom York do anything.
Okay. Yep. Obviously, Radiohead again was probably a bit before my time, and I never really got into that style of music anyway.
I think what it is, Ollie, is that people were telling me I had to like them.
Yeah, I think that. And then I think...
Like, if you're a sophisticated music fan that grew up loving the Beatles, Floyd, Queen, all these bands, Zeppelin, particularly the British influential progressive rock bands, Genesis, if you like them, you have to like Radiohead. Because this is the modern incarnation of a similar type of band.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't.
No, I can do what I want.
Because if my ears recoil,
yeah,
I'm not going to just jump on board.
Yeah.
So that's the one everyone hates me for. But this next one is something not a lot of people know, but it will probably be the thing people hate me for the most.
Okay, I love it already.
Breaking Bad is average.
I have watched that show and I did like it, but I can get on board with that.
Like, it's not this magisterial television statement that will never be surpassed or wasn't and hasn't already been surpassed.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was idolising criminal behaviour. I mean, I'm okay with that. My favourite movie is The Godfather.
Yep.
But let's not pretend that this is the peak of television before and or it's never going to get better.
I also think the important thing to point out is you're not saying it's bad or unwatchable. You're just saying it's okay and not the...
Well, this is the one that people love the most, that I don't even dislike this one, but that's how it's viewed.
Yes.
That I don't also agree that it was appointment viewing and my whole life had to revolve around it when it was on.
I don't have a top 5 for this topic, but I will back you up with a different show. I have the same view on Game of Thrones. Never seen the show. Have no intention. Maybe this isn't that I don't like it or hate it. It's that at the time when it came out, I was at uni, like it was peak, and that was before streamers, so like 2014, 2015 era when it came out. And we had to, people downloaded Game of Thrones, and it became like a black market currency. People knew who had it, and there were viewing parties, there was watch parties, there was a whole thing. And part of me was like, I don't get this show. I don't get why it's this complete fandom and, everything shuts down and people's lives stop. So I think maybe a bit out of spite when I'm not going to watch this show and I think it sucks. Yeah. So I could be wrong, but I have no intention to see the show. And I agree. I don't Again, I haven't said, at least if you've watched Breaking Bad and given it its airtime.
Yeah.
But I'm the same with Game of Thrones. That's my view.
I think maybe what it was with Breaking Bad, I think it was the first great show that a lot of people watched because they hadn't seen many truly great TV shows before.
Yes.
So that was the original, oh my God, this is how good television can be.
Yeah.
Whereas to me, I was comparing it to Oz, The Sopranos, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Battlestar Galactica. Like, I'd seen 4 or 5 shows prior to Breaking Bad that were perfect in a way, or even beautifully imperfect. Yeah. So to me, it was like, oh, this show's okay.
Do you think Breaking Bad was because it finished in 2013? Because I remember the big finale came out when I finished high school. So I remember when I finished high school, I was like, oh, now I finished school and got the whole summer. I'm going to watch this whole show from start to finish. Even though it had already finished, I was going to watch it all. Do you think it was like a show, whether it was deliberate or not from HBO, but do you think it was a show that was angled towards stream binge watching? Like it was built to just watch it like...
I think, and this might upset people to say, I think it was a sophisticated show that was still made for a mainstream audience.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other shows that networks like HBO had made in the past weren't really ever... They didn't take the hard edges off things to make it more palatable to the mainstream audience. Mm-hmm. And I guess it could be just the fact that whenever people tell me that something's great, if they're a type of person whose taste I don't respect, And I'm not saying they've got a worse taste than me. My taste might be worse in their eyes. It probably is. But if you're just a standard person and you don't like any of the same bands, movies, other TV shows, books as what I do, and you're telling me Breaking Bad's the best show you've ever seen, like I'm probably going in biased.
Yeah. You're going in going, well, I don't trust your rec based on the rest of your personality.
Yeah. And I don't know, just sometimes like the idolatry around criminal behaviour. Like it's the same with Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy has several scenes that I think are incredible. Like an individual episode or a sequence that's amazing. But I don't love the whole concept of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But then in saying that, one of my favourite shows of all time is a show called Banshee. And that is very, very violent and very criminal.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm against the whole premise. It's just that show to me was brilliant from the first second till the end.
Yeah. The other thing about Breaking Bad, I'll add, is when it was out, when it was pumping and going at its peak, all the feedback I got from people was, you got to watch Breaking Bad, you got to watch it. How can you not be watching it? But just let you know, the first 2 seasons, really slow. You got to push through. You got to push through that. Once you get through past the first 2 seasons, season 3 onwards, brilliant. And you're like, what is it with? And they're not the only show that does this now, but I hear that quite often. Nah, I want to watch a show from the start that is good. Like, I don't want to have to push through 25 hours of content as a garbage truck goes past. 25 hours of content to get to the good stuff.
That may or may not be as good as you're telling me.
Yeah. And it's like, what are we talking about? What happened to the eras of TV shows that was good from episode 1?
Yeah. Well, that's why when I'm saying I love Banshee. Banshee, to me, I loved from the first opening sequence because it has the best first 10 minutes of a show I've ever seen.
Cool, yeah.
Like, it is an unbelievable first episode. And it's the same with Battlestar Galactica. The first episode, 33, is probably the best episode of the entire run of that show.
Okay, cool.
It's it may be the greatest first episode of a show I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It'd be like if I said to you, not that you are in this position now, but if I had have said a couple of years ago, look, this is going to be the great relationship of your life. The first 2 seasons, let's say summer and then autumn, are they going to suck?
Yeah.
You got to push through those, Ollie.
Yeah, it's going to be a grind.
That part, there's no Goldilocks period here.
Yeah,
this is just going to be hard work.
And then once you get through to the third season,
when you start putting clothes on in winter instead of taking them off, that's going to be when it gets good.
Yeah, I don't get why that's a thing, and it's become more of a thing with, I think, streaming shows, and they go, just get through the first couple, and you're like, nah. I'd much rather, my best shows is the first 3 seasons are great, and then if they go into 5, 6, 7, that's when it drops off. I've done that with so many shows where you watch the first 2 or 3 and you're like, this is awesome, but then I don't watch after that. I think the most I've ever watched a show is maybe 8 or 9 seasons. But I think maybe, do you reckon that's a British thing? A British thing is they make less. It's that sort of quality over quantity. They make less episodes, less seasons, but it's awesome the whole time. And then whereas it's very, very traditional American TV to just pump out 24 episodes a season for 10 years and 65% of it's great to okay. Yeah. And then the other 35% is just unwatchable.
Yeah, I think it has to do with funding. Like in Canada and in the UK, a lot of it's coming from the CBC and the BBC. Yeah. So there's probably a limit on their budgets.
Yeah.
But they're not trying to fill a whole advertising calendar either for half of a year.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I mean, and modern shows theoretically are meant to be shorter but better.
Yeah. The example I can think of at the moment is Schitt's Creek. It's brilliant. And they're a show that, again, was created and written and filmed. And it's episodic television, but it was written and filmed and created for the binge watch.
Yeah.
So there isn't cliffhangers. There isn't, because it's just really well character driven, extremely funny dialogue. But it's 6 seasons, 12 to 14 episodes a season.
Yeah.
And because it's built for streaming, it's 20 to 24 minute eps.
I think and an interesting point. And I think another show that probably in very much the similar way, I should say, as Schitt's Creek kind of has nailed the type of comedy show that works in that format is Kim's Convenience.
Yeah.
They have middle of the episode peaks. Like where the big tension moment is in an episode, it's the same in Schitt's Creek. It's not always at the start and the end.
No.
It's kind of in the middle, and then they relax you into the end of the episode. Yeah. And Kim's Convenience was very much like that. It was like, it starts off, we're working up to the tension. There's a big moment. Maybe make you sad, maybe make you laugh. Probably both.
Yeah.
With Schitt's Creek and Kim's Convenience.
Yeah.
And then they kind of relax you back into, this is ending in a happy way, so you're on ramped to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole cliffhanger thing, episode to episode, doesn't really work when the next one starts 20 seconds later. And you can skip it straight to it.
Yes. And then that's like, because now these like traditional shows that have been put on streamers, it's that. You watch like a cop show or a drama and you're like, end of season cliffhanger, and then you just go, the next season. And then now you said even better, you can do the whole skip intro. So it's like you barely even left.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, it was minimum a week, and if not 6 to 9 months.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you guys are out there and you've got a top 5 of things that people love that you don't, send them through.
We love it. Yeah.
Did you just want to finish up now, Ollie, just quickly, do you have any gigs coming up?
I do. There's always a few in Melbourne. So the ones I think I will plug is the 4th and 8th of February. I'm going to do 2 trial shows, one at local tap house in St Kilda and one at the Bergie Seltzer in Brunswick. And they're going to be 2 preview trial shows, whatever you want to call them. And that is for my upcoming festival show. And it hasn't been publicly put out yet, but it will be probably by the time this episode's out. So the show is called Baby on Board. And it is the second half of the Melbourne Comedy Festival in April. We'll hear plenty more about it. But the 2 big gigs, trial show for the 8th and the 4th and 8th of February. And I'm also doing a split bill with Nick Schuler. So if you don't know Nick, he's very funny, very dry.
At the Comedy Festival?
No, we're doing the trial shows. We're doing a split bill. And then the Comedy Festival, we're both doing our respective solo shows. But the trial show format will be like, we'll do 30 to 40 minutes each, and it'll be free because it's like a preview. So if you want to come to a trial show or you haven't been to a trial show before, come along if you're in Melbourne, and you'll see stuff that not everyone else will see because it'll be the shit bits. But that is the point of trial shows. So
yes.
Come along to those. But other than that, keep an eye on my socials or both our socials for any other gigs around where we're doing. Whatever you, mate, have you got anything?
It's just been announced that I'm on with Luke Heggie.
Awesome. At
the Riverina Comedy Club in Wagga and also Tumut. I do have, from the April the 2nd till I think the 9th, I'm doing a show with Dane Simpson and some other regional comedians at the Comedy Festival, which I'll post in the show notes where you're listening.
Yeah.
So that should be awesome. There's 5 or 6 of us on that, and we're all going to be doing our best chunk of stuff.
7, yeah.
And you get to see Dane.
Yeah, and if the rest of them suck, you just see Dane Simpson, and he's one of the best in the country at the moment. And I'm not just saying that, Dane, in case you're hearing it. You are one of the best comedians, and you're still on the rise. He's one of the best, and also one of the best. We've talked about him.
If you want to just stay low on the rise for a bit, mate, just so we can catch up a tiny bit.
So you can leave some with the rest of us, big fella.
Leave a bit of rise behind.
Yeah, but great man, and you will talk about Dane many more times on this podcast. Hopefully we'll get him on one day.
This is like the Dane Simpson fan cast.
Yeah, I love that man so much. So you'll hear about our comedy festival stuff because it is not till April, but you'll hear more about that. And if you're in Melbourne, get amongst it. And if you're anywhere where comedy is, just go to it. And we don't have to be on. So if you hear of a comedy show and you're like, I want to go to that, go to it and get amongst it.
And that's amazing. But also, guys, and I did this once when I was hosting a show recently, it's okay to go and laugh.
Yeah.
Because it's way more fun.
Yes. Yeah.
So I had to tell an audience that like a couple of weeks ago, guys, it's all right to laugh. And then from that moment on, they're like, oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. If something's funny, just laugh at it like we're doing. Even if it's not funny, we're still laughing. It
just makes everyone feel better.
Makes everyone feel better. And that's the whole idea of comedy. So, yeah.
Yep, righto. Thanks, guys.
That'll do. Thanks, guys.
Catch ya.